Okay, so you know you're supposed to ask questions as a leader, but maybe you're not sure which questions you should be asking. Or better yet, maybe you're asking questions, but those questions don't seem to be effective. They don't seem to be solving any problems. Well, in this video, I'm going to teach you the three questions leaders should never, ever ask. It's so interesting and fascinating to me how many people do things because they know they're supposed to, but they don't know why they're doing it. Like they know they're supposed to do this thing, they don't know why they do it. And in my experience, asking great questions during a coaching conversation, it's one of those things. A lot of people understand the practice of something, but they don't understand the principle of it. Here's what I mean by that. If you just know what to do, right? Which is usually the first thing people want to learn. Like, show me how to do it, show me how to do it, show me how to do it. If you teach someone what to do, they only know the practice, they don't know the principle until they understand why they should do it and when they should do it. If you don't understand the why and the when of the what, you don't fully understand it. And so I always make it a practice to never teach practice without first teaching the principle. And so I want to teach you the principle of why questions are better than answers and more powerful than answers, because I think that if you understand the principle of the thing better, it'll help you with the questions that you're asking during your coaching conversations. So there's a couple of things that I wanted to share with you. Uh, when it comes to asking questions, what you are essentially doing, especially in a coaching conversation, you are co creating a goal, a solution, an idea with the person that you're leading. People are more committed to ideas that they co-create as opposed to ones that are dictated to them. So if you've ever had the experience where someone told you, "Hey, I need you to go do this, I need you to go do that, I need you to go do that," and that's your work for the day, you may go do those things, but you're not going to do it with the same commitment level you would do it if it were your own idea, or if you had a hand in um, designing what your day was going to look like that day. People give millennials and the generations coming after us a lot of flack because we don't do, I'm just going to say it, we don't do a lot of the dumb stuff that our, our parents have to do. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I know that that doesn't sound like, but listen, we grew up with more options. The generation after us grew up with more options than that. You know, our parents grew up with more options than their parents. And so some of the stuff we're just like, we don't have to do that anymore. Like, hello, someone took the lid off the jar. We can actually jump out of here. And so because of that, we choose to do things different. And I know it looks weird to the generations before us, but that is what it is. But listen, the point that I'm making is when you are coaching someone and they get input on it, like people want input on their schedule, people want input whether or not they have to go to the office or not, people want input on what their goals look like. When you co-create things with people, they are more committed and more bought into those ideas that they co-create. Here's the other thing: people don't like foreign ideas. They don't like foreign ideas. So what that means is if an idea sounds like it's too foreign, it's too far out, they can't really make the connections in their brains. We should talk about that one day, like how your brain makes connections, and that's how you learn things faster when you can connect it to something that you already know. But if they can't make those connections in their brain, they're not going to be fully bought in. They're going to reject it because it's not fully something that they take ownership over. Have you ever had, this happens to me all the time. Have you ever had somebody uh you're talking to them and you share an idea and they're like, no, 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 I don't want to do that. And then they come back later and share the idea that you shared with them back to you like it was their idea. It's like, bro, I told you that last week. Like, why didn't you listen when I told you, right? But I don't remember you telling me that. It's because now it feels like their idea, even though it was your idea all along. So when you're coaching and you're asking people questions, what you are essentially doing is tapping into their human needs, the human desires, the where their brain works to help them co-create something with you that sounds familiar to them because it came out of their own mouth. That's the principle of why you should ask questions during coaching as a leader. Now, I know as a leader, it's difficult, more difficult to ask questions because of the simple fact that it takes more time. And I talk about this all the time. The things that it takes to develop people, it takes patience, it takes being steady, it takes being consistent. It does not take speed. You don't want speed when it comes to developing people. You only want to go as fast as their development allows you to go. not as fast as you desire to go. And so it's going to take more time. A lot of leaders say, man, I could just tell them the answer faster than I could ask them enough questions to help them arrive at the answer. You could, but that's only going to hinder them and hinder you long term. So here's a couple of things I want you to think about when you're thinking about whether you should give answers or if you should ask questions. Here's a couple of things to think about. Number one, answers make you do without thinking, but great questions you can't do without thinking. Think about that for a second. Answers make you do without thinking. You can literally just go do the thing. You don't even have to think about it because somebody gave you the answer. But with great questions, you can't do without thinking. I had a leader. His name is Jack Needham. And I was going to him for coaching, and I was super frustrated at the time. And he was like, man, I could see you're very frustrated. What do you think you should do? And I'm like, Jack, I don't know, because if I did know, I wouldn't have come to you to ask you this question, right? And he's like, yeah, but let's think about it for a second. Well, what should you do? And I'm like, Jack, I don't know. Like, I'm already frustrated. I've tried this, I've tried that, I've tried that. I don't know. He asked me one of the greatest coaching questions, but at the same time, one of the most frustrating coaching questions I've ever been asked in my life. He said, yeah, Tony, but what if you did know? I'm like, all right, I'm going to throw something at you. Like, what if I did? So it made me stop to think. See, what I wanted was for him to just give me the answer so that I didn't have to think. I wanted him to think for me and then me just go do what he thought about, because I didn't want to take time to think for myself. One of my business coaches always says, thinking is the hardest work most people never do. I love that because that is so true. I wanted to borrow his brain, right? I hate when I get, and I hate is a strong word. I very strongly dislike when I get DMs or a text message or, hey man, I want to take you out for an hour for lunch or coffee so I can pick your brain. No, I want you to use your brain. Like, use your brain and come up with some ideas and come up with some solutions. And if you get stuck, then call me while you're already doing the thing. Don't sit at home and not do the thing and then want to use my brain for how you should start doing the thing. No, you go do the thing first. And then if you get stuck, then we can come together and brainstorm, right? When there's a storm, there's multiple elements going on, right? It's not a storm when it's just raining. There has to be thunder and lightning to it to be. When it's a brainstorm, we both are using our brain to do something. I don't know, that was I just went on a little rant there that I didn't plan on. That is not in my notes, but it came out, so we're gonna roll with it. But the thing is, people don't want to think. They want you to think for them. And as a leader, if you fall for this trap for thinking for your people, you're always going to need to think for them. They're gonna say, man, it was a lot easier using Tony's brain than it was using my brain. I'm gonna go use his brain again. And now every time they have a problem, they're gonna come use your brain instead of using their own. So when you think about it, you're leading people, when you're coaching people, answers make you do without thinking, but with great questions, you can't do without thinking. Here's the next one. Answers may charge you, but great questions will change you. Answers will charge you, but great questions will change you. I love getting pumped up with energy and just going to do something, right? My natural instinct when a problem occurs is to hit the problem harder and maybe it'll go away. That's my natural instinct. In fact, one of the things that in a transparent moment I'm struggling with in business right now as we speak is that when a problem presents itself, my first instinct is to hit the thing harder, more energy, more effort, right in the face, hit it as hard as I can. That charges me up. But with great questions, it will change you because it forces you to slow down and think about what you're trying to do. There's a great book for entrepreneurs that I believe that you should read. And I think anybody could find value in this book, but specifically for business owners, it's called 10X is Easier Than 2X. And the principle of this book is you could 10X your business easier than you can 2X your business. And here's why. You can 2X your business by just doing double of what you're doing right now, right? If I generate 100 leads a month, and that's what does my business, if I just generate 200 leads a month, now I can do that, double my effort. I just double my business, right? Simple enough. But if you're going to 10X your business, you have to think about this thing totally different. You can't just hit the thing that's in front of you harder to 10X your business. You have to stop and think for a second. And that's what great questions do. They force you to stop and think. I had to stop and think while I was reading that book. Man, what if that's true? What if growing my business 10 times as big as it is now is easier than growing it 2 times. What would that look like? What would I need to do to 10x my business? I got a newsflash for you. I can't just go run full speed at that. I have to slow down. And that's what great questions do. It slows you down and it forces you to think. Answers may charge you, but great questions will change you. And here's the last one. Answers will tell you the what, but they will never teach you the why. There's a difference as a leader between telling and teaching. And I know that we can think about situational leadership, right? There are times where you need to tell. I think every time is a great time to teach, but there are times where you need to tell, but never tell and not teach, right? If you do have to tell somebody something now, circle back to them later and say, hey, let me teach you about why I told you that. And you can only do that through asking great questions. In order to teach somebody something, you first have to assess where they are, what they know, what level of competence they have. And so answers will tell you the what, but they will never teach you the why. The why is critically important. If you want people to do great things, they have to know why. Okay. So with that, all that in mind, all that was foundational, all that was just laying the groundwork. Now that you know and understand the principle of why questions are more powerful than answers, let's talk about the 3 questions you should never ask. And I've heard all of these questions before. I'm not making this up. This is like real life things I've heard leaders do in some way, shape, or form that they should never, ever do. The first type of question you should never ask are blame-oriented questions. I hear this one a lot. Well, why'd you mess this up? Whose fault is this? Who did this? When you ask blame-oriented questions, you are using all of your energy to all of your energy towards a problem instead of towards a solution. When you ask blame-oriented questions, you're using all of your energy towards a problem instead of a solution. When you use blame-oriented questions, you're focusing on fault, and blame is always a powerless move. I made a post on social media earlier today on Instagram, and I said leadership gets so much easier when you realize that it's all your fault. As a leader, when you realize it's all your fault, like you hired those people, you didn't coach them well enough, you allowed them to do that, you're not holding them accountable. When you realize it's all your fault, it gets easier because now you've obtained the power, the mindset that delivers the power to be able to fix it. If you can't recognize that this is your fault, that you did this thing, that you're responsible for this thing, then you won't be able to fix the thing. And so when you understand that not focusing on blame, but shifting the focus to responsibility, when you understand that principle, that gives you the power to fix the thing. So when you're asking questions, what you should be asking are solution-based questions. Like, what can we do to rectify the situation? What can we do moving forward? There is no benefit, value, or power in focusing on what already went wrong, unless we're going to try to learn from that situation. So the first type of questions you should never ask, if you're asking blame-oriented questions, you are not doing your team a service. Did you know that when you ask a question to your team during a coaching interaction, every time you ask a question during a coaching interaction, you have the opportunity to build something or break something? Did you know that? Every time during a coaching interaction, when you ask your team something, you have the opportunity to build something or break something. You can build or break their trust. You can build or break their confidence. You can build or break their competence. Every time you get an opportunity to ask a question during a coaching interaction, you get the opportunity to build or break something. That leads me to my second type of question. The second type of questions you should never ask are confidence breaking questions. Are you sure you can handle this? I had a leader ask somebody on her team that right in front of me. She's like, I don't know if you can do this. Explain it to me. And she's like, are you sure you can handle this? Do you actually know what you're doing, or are you just BSing me right now? That's literally what she said. And I have to tell you that when it comes to having people on your team that are capable, one of the biggest components of being capable is having confidence. There are so many people in the world, in the workplace, who are capable of doing amazing things, but they don't have the confidence to do it, so they never go actually do the thing. I talk to people all the time who are telling me about all their capabilities, all of their competencies, how they're good at this thing, but then they have no proof of it. And when you ask them why they have no proof of it, it's because they don't have confidence that they can actually do it. So they never put it out into the world. And a lot of times in the workplace, it's the leader that has the opportunity to build or break someone's confidence. You can build or break your confidence by your team in a bunch of different ways. One of the ways that you do it is giving them answers, right? If I always give you the answer every time you come up to me with a problem, that means I don't trust you to come up with your own answers. And you read that even if you don't intellectually understand it, you feel it. And so now I'm breaking your confidence, right? But also when I'm asking you questions that are built in doubt, that are built in disbelief, I am showing you that I don't believe in your abilities. How could you be confident after that? There is a test that was done, a famous test. And it was called the not yet study. And this not yet philosophy that these teachers implemented at this school with all the kids that were underperforming, instead of giving them a bad grade of a D or an F, they would put not yet. And they would have a conversation with the kid telling them that, hey, I know you're not yet performing where we want you to be, but I believe that you can still do it. These kids actually performed better than the kids in the other group that still got D's and F's. What was the difference between the two? The difference was confidence. Their leader at the time, which was a teacher, instilled confidence in them that they believed that they could do better, and so they did. Your team is dying for that belief in them. They want to know that they work for a leader who actually believes in their abilities. And it's a part of your job to build their abilities, but that's a different conversation for a different day. So you never want to ask confidence breaking questions. And then the third type of question you should never ask are dismissive questions. This is one that could really break people really, really fast. Why are you spending so much time on this? Is this actually important, or is this just a pet project? I've heard leaders ask people on their team. Now, there's nothing wrong with wanting to redirect someone, right? If they're focused on the wrong things, if you feel like the work that they're doing is not aligned with the overall goal or aligned with the things that they should be doing, there are different ways to ask some of these questions, right? Instead of asking a dismissive question, you can ask a connection question. How is this work connected to the things that we're working on for this quarter? How is this work connected to the overall goal or the overall mission of the company? And let's have a conversation on those bases. But the types of questions that you ask your team are critically important. So we know that leaders should ask great questions. We know that we should be doing this in our coaching interactions, but sometimes we just don't know the questions to ask. Well, I just gave you 3 of the questions that you should never, ever ask unless you completely want to dismantle your team, which I don't think that you do. You want to make sure that you always avoid confidence breaking questions. You want to make sure that you avoid blame oriented questions. And you want to make sure you avoid dismissive questions. And if you can do those things, you will be leading better in no time. I hope you enjoyed today's video. I will see you all